YouTube. Let's have a look. All right, hang on. Where are we? All right, guys. Hi. Thanks for joining me. This is Jackie M. For those of you who don't know me, I am a Malaysian-born, Sydney, Australia-based former Malaysian restaurateur, and I create a lot of content around Malaysian food, travel, and that sort of stuff. So say hello, let me know where you're watching from, and don't forget to share this out with your friends. Don't forget to react and comment so that it makes Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, or whatever other powers that be recognize that there are actually people interested in this content. Okay, so say hello, let me know where you're watching from, and let me just have a quick look. Now this particular topic we're going to cover today, and by the way, if you saw the starting screen, it actually linked to my page on my website, which is jackiem.com.au/timetable. Okay, and this is where I currently put my live stream schedule, and if you hop over there now, jackiem.com.au/timetable, you're going to see that there's a whole bunch of live streams that I've scheduled for the next week plus. Okay, so that'll be if there's any particular topic that interests you, make sure you set it so that you don't forget. Just bookmark that page. All right, just have it open so that you can see there's a countdown timer that tells you when it's going to start. Okay, so thanks again everyone for joining me, and like I said, say hello. If I don't respond to you, that's probably because I'm pushing this out across a number of different platforms, namely Twitch, Facebook, and YouTube. So it's a little bit hard to catch your comments. If I don't see them now, I will go back and rewatch later on and check for any comments and answer your questions over there. Now, this particular topic was actually requested by people in my Thermomix community. Those of you who don't know, I've been exploring using the Thermomix for a number of my cooking recipes and stuff like that to help me save time and all that sort of stuff. And in fact, if you have been following me a little bit, you will know a few months ago I actually launched this range of what I call dry curry pastes, and I actually use the Thermomix to help me actually produce them. Okay, so this is one example of my dry curry paste. You can check out the range at shop.jackiem.com.au. Okay, and today is all about AI. Okay, now when I say AI, what I mean is using AI to help us with some of the work that we do. If you're in my shoes, if you're a solo business person or that sort of stuff, you should be able to find this somewhat useful or very useful. Okay, and this is something that I've actually covered in the past, but obviously not everyone caught it. And when I kind of ad hoc mention using AI to help tweak one of my recipes. They were really surprised that you can actually do that. And so they asked me to redo this particular broadcast. So first of all, we're going to cover how I use AI in terms of recipe, like tweaking, development, and stuff like that. Which AI platforms produce what kind of results, so we can compare and contrast the different ones. And I know everyone knows about ChatGPT, but there are actually other options out there, okay? And I'm going to cover a little bit about how they're different and what kind of results they produce. And then I'm going to talk about like how to, for those of you who own a Thermomix or are interested in checking out Thermomix, I am in fact I do have, just barely by the skin of my teeth, have a Thermomix consultancy, so you can talk to me about it, and you can actually buy a Thermomix from me. You know, just get in touch with me. But anyway, for those of you who do have a Thermomix, there's a particular feature of the Thermomix, that's in particular the latest version, this TM6, which actually allows you to program your machine with your recipes. Okay, so I'm going to actually, first of all, once we've sorted out the AI stuff, we're going to hop onto the Thermomix side of things. I'm going to show you the back end of how to actually add your own personalized recipe to the Thermomix. And now I'm going to show you, I've done a screen recording of the Thermomix panel, right, on the Thermomix itself, and how it looks when you use it. After you've programmed it, you'll hop onto your machine and see how it looks. And then we are going to finally actually follow those steps that we've programmed to cook up this dish. And I'm going to give you my wrap up in terms of how I thought AI, how successful I thought it was or not successful, and subsequently what I ended up doing as well, how I tweaked the recipe further after this experiment. So all of this is an experiment. It's just you guys following along as I recorded, like yesterday, what I did with this particular recipe. So I'm going to give you some context as far as how it all actually came together. Okay, so just give me a second. I just want to make sure I haven't missed anybody. So if you're watching now, just make sure you say hello. Let me know where you're watching from, and say hello, and let me know if you do own a Thermomix, where you own it, and you know what you use it for, and that sort of stuff. Okay, again, like I said, I'm live streaming this across multiple platforms. And because I used to actually live stream on Twitch like 3 times a week plus, and I haven't live streamed on Twitch forever, for years and years. All right, I just actually literally hopped onto my own Twitch page and realized a lot of stuff is out of date. Okay, so if you're watching me from Twitch, say hello. If you've watched me in the past on Twitch, especially, say hello and let me know what you've been up to. Okay, but anyway, back to this. Let me know how you're placed in terms of AI, whether you use it, and if so, how you use it. Okay, just give me one more second while I share this on one more Facebook group, and I'm just going to tag everyone here. Let's see. Okay, Food Fame. Okay, I've got a bunch of different Facebook groups. Live now. Add everyone. Your questions, AI and recipe development. Okay, here we go. Okay, so right here. Now, context is always important. And by the way, if you're watching, especially on YouTube and on Facebook, right? If you're watching and you're expecting this to be a short 5-minute video, you can I just beg, for the love of God, to just leave now, because I'm sick and tired of people going on about how this is taking 45 minutes and whatever, and that you've got ADD and you can't pay attention and whatever. Okay, so for everyone's sake, just go and watch some TikTok videos or whatever else people with short attention spans do. But anyway, back to this context. First of all, Bak Kwa. What is Bak Kwa? Bak Kwa are these like really nice mincemeat slices that are barbecued, and they're thin slices of like mincemeat that have been marinated in a bunch of spices and sugar and then they're grilled and they taste absolutely delicious. And I actually wanted to buy some Bak Kwa from one of my favorite Bak Kwa makers in Sydney. His name is Chi Ming, so shout out to Chi Ming. But unfortunately, we ran out of time, and I want to buy some and take them with us on this church camp that's actually happening in a few hours today. So out of desperation, I thought, what the hell, I'll make it myself. In fact, I actually used to sell Bak Kwa when I had my restaurant many years ago, but only like, you know, very occasionally, if you know what I mean. So because I haven't made it in years and years, I actually went on to Cookidoo, which is the Thermomix platform where you have access to thousands and thousands of recipes. So I just looked up Bak Kwa recipe on the Cookidoo, and I used that to make it, right? I'm not blaming Cookidoo by any stretch of the imagination. Some recipes work better than others, and I used this recipe that didn't quite work out. But part of it is also my fault, okay? Because the recipe said to roll, you know how I said they're thin slices of meat, it says to roll it out to 3mm thickness, right? And I rolled it out. I remember when I used to make it for my restaurant, I would make them in 2mm thicknesses, okay? But I thought, let's go with this 3mm. And of course, in my rush as well, I probably wasn't that fastidious in making sure they're the right thickness. Long story short, after I made it, I got a whole batch, 2 kilos worth of minced meat of Bak Kwa, where a lot of the slices were too thick. Okay, and I mean the flavor's there, but it's too thick and it's really tough. Okay, so I decided, why don't I use AI to figure out what I can do with this basically bad batch of Bak Kwa. Okay, so this, I'm just going to share a screen with you now. And this is a very rough recording because, you know, I was zipping through it. But here we go. Okay, so first of all, let's talk about AI, okay? Now, let me just fix my screen here. Okay, like I said, everybody knows about ChatGPT, okay? ChatGPT were basically the first out of the gate with AI, so everybody knows them. But there are actually other options, and some of the options that I've played around with are Perplexity. Okay, so if you Google Perplexity AI, have a play around with it, and Claude, okay, and there are others as well. Microsoft's got their own, Google's got their own version, sort of thing. But essentially, ChatGPT, Perplexity, Claude are the three that I plugged this particular question into. So let's do this. Let me just hit play. I'm going to turn off the volume here for the moment. Actually, you know what? That's okay. Okay, so I plugged in this question. Okay, you say, I have a batch of Bak Kwa that didn't quite turn out. The sizes are too thick. Give me some suggestions what I can repurpose it for. Include recipes for them. Okay, so here we go. Here are some ideas from ChatGPT for repurposing leftover Bak Kwa. And no, by the way, I mentioned previously as well to my audience that AI can hallucinate answers. Okay, so don't take everything they give you at face value. You have to have your own kind of like, you know, filters to be able to figure out, look, is this going to work? Is this going to taste nice? And stuff like that, okay? But nonetheless, you see, pretty good. Bak Kwa egg rolls. I think by egg rolls, they don't mean American egg rolls as in spring rolls. They actually mean literally egg rolls, okay? But you see, it's pulling out all these recipes for you. And it essentially what it does, because it learns information from the internet, it pulls together knowledge base from the internet. There is, you know, sometimes you wonder if they're stealing people's information, but a lot of it as well is because of its combined knowledge. It essentially creates its own stuff. Okay, now I hopped onto Claude, okay, and Claude's giving me its own set of answers. You're going to find some crossovers, right? I saw that Bak Kwa fried rice was quite popular, and then I hopped onto Perplexity. And the great thing about Perplexity is that it actually gives you sources, okay? So one of the suggestions it gave me was to make Bak Kwa jam, and the source it quoted as coming from a website by Miss Tam Chiak, who's a popular Singapore blogger. Okay, now Miss Tam Chiak's recipe includes, in terms of making the Bak Kwa jam, includes adding bacon to it. Okay, so I asked a follow-up question. Okay, what should I do if I don't eat pork? And it suggested using turkey bacon or beef bacon, which I thought was a little bit lame. Okay, so I actually, in the end, I actually skipped bacon and its non-pork versions as well. And also it called for 2 different types of vinegar, balsamic vinegar and also what was that, apple cider vinegar, neither of which I had sitting in my pantry, so can I use something else? So it says, yeah, you can. This is what I'm gonna go with rice vinegar, and here you go, here's the adapted recipe for it. And it's going away and doing its thing. Let me just have a quick look in the meantime. I thought I had some reactions. Okay, here we go. Okay, so it's it gives me the steps, right? It says chop the aromatics, and I noticed, remember, like I said, you need your own filters you can't turn off your brain, okay? So I noticed it didn't mention, it said to use chopped Bak Kwa. So I said, why not chop it in the Thermomix? Please adapt to do so. And by the way, the saying please and thank you is my own. I mean, AI is non-sentient, okay? But I just think as out of humanity, my own personal humanity, I like to say please and thank you in some of the questions I ask, okay? But it's not because I think there's somebody else behind the scenes like replying to me, you know. But anyway, so here we go. That's what it did. It basically added the step for it to actually use the Thermomix to chop up the Bak Kwa. Okay, so now we're going to head over to Cookidoo. You do need an account on Cookidoo. Just let me pause this quickly. You do need an account on Cookidoo. The URL is cookidoo.com, and here in Australia is .au, is the suffix here. But the account, if you're new to Cookidoo, is completely free for 30 days. If you own a Thermomix, it's free for the first 4 months of your ownership, after which is a yearly subscription. But to me, it's a very, very good value, because what it does is you program recipes in there, and also you find from their database of thousands and thousands of recipes, and then you kind of like add them to your little library, and then you hop onto your Thermomix to cook, and the recipes are all there, okay? So instead of like what I used to do, which is like I've got hundreds and hundreds of recipes on my website, jackiem.com.au, and I've got much more behind the scenes recipes that I used to use in my restaurant, and also recipes that I actually share with my private paid students. Now, what I used to do would be like look up the recipe or pull out a cookbook, and then you're doing this back, forth, trying to follow the steps, how much again, and stuff like that, okay? When you've got the Thermomix and you open up Cookidoo on the Thermomix, it will literally tell you step by step how much, and it'll pull up the scales that's built into the Thermomix. Like say for instance, it says 500 grams flour, it'll pull up the scale, and then you add the flour, and then you click next, and it'll just say 200 grams of water, and then you add the water, and then it'll tell you close the lid, and then it'll tell you to turn the dial, and it will start kneading it or whatever else that step is, okay? So that, in a very, very brief nutshell, is what the Cookidoo thingo does, okay? So here we go. What you want to do is hop onto Cookidoo, not on your Thermomix, but behind the scenes, okay? This is my back end of my Cookidoo. These are my created recipes. This is what I do now. I want to create my own recipe, so I'm going to call it Bak Kwa jam adapted from Miss Tam Jia. I always, by the way, guys, I know there's no such thing as you know, nobody invented fried rice who can claim to, all right? But I like to reference where I get my sources from. I think it's a matter of basic courtesy sort of thing, if nothing else, right? So I think it's just good practice to remember where you got the source from, so you can kind of tip your hat to them or blame them. Okay. Okay, so I'm going back to Perplexity, and I realized the ingredients are in like volume, okay? The Thermomix likes to work with weight, okay? So I've asked another question: convert the ingredients into weights and redo the recipe, okay? So this is what it's pulled up now. Here's the Bak Kwa jam recipe, okay? So it's done all of that for you, right? So it's converted everything into grams and whatever else. So here we go. We are going to Cookidoo, we're gonna hit create recipe, and we're going to plug all these ingredients there. And like I said earlier at the start of this, I did eventually go back and tweak it further later on, and I'll cover that at the end of this session, okay? So here we go. So I'm adding all the ingredients based on what Perplexity has plugged in for me. And by the way, it says 60 grams shallots and 50 grams onion. And this is one of those things, as someone who is who was born in Malaysia, now live in Australia, shallots and onions are the same thing to me for all intents and purposes in terms of cooking, okay? Because when I first came to Australia in the early 80s, you couldn't like buy like Asian shallots, okay? So any recipe that called for shallots, I would replace with onion, and I would also combine the total amount. So that's basically what I did here, and I know it should be 110 grams, so I just kind of rounded it up and down as I see fit. A lot of my cooking is very agak, okay, which means to kind of like just whatever you guesstimate it sort of thing. It's not an exact science, okay? And now we've plugged in all the ingredients, we're going to go to do the steps. And the steps, this part here is a little bit it's important, okay? Because what you want to do is you want to actually add the ingredients, and you want to select the ingredients from the ingredients list that you've just plugged in. Just give me a second. Okay, so you see what you want to do for every step of the cooking instruction, you've got the scales show up, and the scales, that's when you click on the scales, it pulls up the ingredient list that you plugged in earlier. Okay, now you want to pick the ingredient, say 100 grams of bacon, and then you want to tell it, then you click on the blender icon, and then you select how long you want it to blend for, okay? And I'm referring to what Perplexity AI has told me about how long I should blend it for, okay? So 100 grams of onion, okay, peeled and quartered. So again, like I said, I'm not retyping the ingredients. It is important. You want to actually link it back to the ingredients list that you created earlier, okay? So you click on the scales, you click on the ingredient, select the ingredient from the list that you pulled in, and then you, select what you want to do with it, which is how fast, the speed, and how long for you want it to blitz, right? And by the way, you see I added those ingredients, 100 grams onion, 10 garlic cloves together. You can actually add them in separate steps. It's up to you. I'll show you how it looks afterwards, okay? Speed 1, so I'm cooking it at speed 1 for 5 minutes. And then of course you can actually add a picture later on. Five seconds, not 5 minutes. I actually, you saw you can see I did this on the fly. So, and it was very hard for me to be able to record this because I was doing this on a smaller monitor. So, yeah, if you want to talk about the tech side of like what I do, we can talk about that separate in a separate stream, okay, in a separate broadcast. One day I'll cover that aspect of how I do what I do. The tech side of it. If you're interested, let me know, and if there's enough interest, I will do a separate broadcast on that, right? So if it's like instructions like add chopped bak kwa, you type in add chopped bak kwa, but you see the ingredients, they're all like bolded. That's because they are picked from that list of ingredients. When I click on the scales, it always pulls up the list of ingredients from the left hand side, and then I pick which ingredients I want, and then I click the blade, the processor blade thingo, and then I select what mode. You can select like kneading, or you can select like just processing. Okay, so you can see I'm just referencing Perplexity, what it tells me to do, and I'm adding all the ingredients, and then I'm telling it to cook for 20 minutes at 100 degrees at speed 1. All of it is based on what AI told me, okay? And by the way, in case you missed it, Miss Tam Chiak's recipe was not Thermomix based, okay? So that's the other thing about this whole process that I managed to get AI to do. First of all, give me ideas what to do with this bad batch of bak kwa. Second of all, give me the recipe, and it referenced that it found a recipe to use from Miss Tam Jiak's blog. And usually what it should do is actually tweak it to work with what I want to do. But I checked out Miss Tam Jiak's recipe, and it's pretty much like for like, right? Then I told it, okay, convert this so I can use it in the Thermomix, right? And it did all that. And then I plugged it into Cookidoo, and now I'm going to, once I've done all this, really painful process. Like I said, the screen that I was doing this off of was quite a small screen, okay? And then ultimately you want to blend it after it cooks for 10 seconds at speed 5.5. Now, the reason why you select the option, like you click on the scales and you click on the spinning thingo, is for what's called guided cooking, okay? Because it tells the Thermomix to actually set those settings for you when you go ahead and cook, okay? So this is what it looks like now. We're going to add the photo later on, and now we're going to cook this, okay? So I've got the Thermomix turned on, and this is the screen on the Thermomix, and these are my overly thick Bak Kwa slices. And by the way, I decided at this point, instead of 200 grams of Bak Kwa slices plus 100 grams of bacon, I decided to just use 300 grams of Bak Kwa slices, okay? So you see, it's already preset the setting to speed 5 for me, and also to blitz it for only like 3 seconds or 4 seconds or whatever. And then you see, this is what it looks like. And then we can just do it again, okay? So that's because like it's got more, because that it you know, it was set for 200 grams of Bak Kwa slices only, when in fact I had 300 grams of meat all up. Okay, so I did it again. And then next step, and this is where it looks, how it looks, okay? The next step, if I click on, okay, I want to blitz it a little bit more. I decided to just, so you can override the functions, right? So I decided to blitz it for another 14 minutes at speed 5. And then what we're going to do later on, we can go back and change it. Okay, so this is on to the next step. Next step, you see there's a whole bunch of, well, there's 2 ingredients. 100 grams of onion, peeled and quartered, plus 10 grams of garlic cloves, okay, peeled. So we're going to, what it will do is, here you go, this is the garlic cloves I'm using, and this is the onion. And by the way, I cheated and used dried onion, but I reconstituted it with a bit of water in case you're wondering what that water is, right? So, and I've got like 128 grams, whatever. I love onion and I love garlic sort of thing, so it doesn't bother me that there's more than what it calls for here, okay? And then what you want to do, you see the highlighted green icon, right? That's where the setting is, okay, that you programmed it to do. So it's blitzing it for another 3 seconds or so at speed 5 seconds, sorry. And now it's all mixed in, okay? And by the way, like I said, let's go back after this, and then it says to add, it actually says to add honey. I didn't have any honey, or I didn't know where it was, because Paul eats all the honey in the house. So I used maple syrup, okay, instead. Oh no, actually in this recipe it calls for maple syrup. No, forget what I just said. It did call for honey when in the Bak Kwa making process, that I used maple syrup instead. Okay, and I added a bit of salt, because remember, we're not using bacon. Bacon's got a lot of salt in it, so I added my own salt. So we're going to go back and tweak the recipe. And I added a bit more sugar than what it said. Oh no, actually I think I used the right amount of sugar, and later on I did change it up a little bit. And see, I'm using just regular white vinegar here, okay? So all these, you see that ingredients list, where it says ingredients required, it's listed the 4 ingredients, and it's brought up the scales for me, okay? So I can zero out the scales each time I added, like, you know, whatever, 50 grams of sugar, tare it, and then how many grams of vinegar, and then tare it, and whatever. or you can add them as separate steps, okay? It really depends on what mood I'm in, because I mean these are really small ingredients. It, you know, I'm not going to lose track of it if I'm just gonna whatever, if you know what I mean. Okay, if you do it step by step, you will get a fresh scale image for you to weigh your things on each time. Okay, now it says to cook it, and I actually stopped because I was going to cook for like, I don't know, 20 minutes or whatever. So this is the end of the 20 minutes that is cooking with the lid off. Speed 120 degrees, even though it never reached 120. Oh, by the way, yeah, that's what I did. It said to cook at 100 degrees, and I thought halfway through, I thought, oh, let's crank it up to 120, because I tend to do things like, you know, I'm not subtle. So here we go. This is what it looks like after 20 minutes of cooking in the Thermomix. Let me see. Okay, so this is what they call Bak Kwa jam, right? And the way Miss Tamchak uses Bak Kwa jam is to use it as a spread on bread or toast or whatever, and to kind of grill some cheese over it as well, over the top, okay, which sounds quite delicious actually. And also the other thing she adds are like thin slices of apple, from what I remember. But I'm skipping the apple thing. I'm not gonna buy. We don't really eat apple in the household, but that's just me. Okay, so I think that's it. Is there anything more? Let me have a look. Okay, so that's it. Let me just stop the video. Oh, no, here we go. It's just a tiny little bit left. Transfer it into a bowl so you can see better what it looks like.
Looks like meat sambal.
And like I said, I'm gonna give you my take on the recipe. Okay, this is what it looks like. The white bits are the onion, okay? So let me just stop that and just let me just remove that video. Okay, let me just go back to stand front. Okay, guys, I'm back. So here we go. That's to recap. What we did was I had some leftover bak kwa, and I plugged into 3 different AI models and asked them to produce some ideas for what to do with leftover bak kwa, and to actually give me the recipes as well. So I think I actually went on to yet another model later on and asked for more suggestions. But anyway, the point being that AI can give you ideas, AI can give you recipes on how to do them. I like Perplexity in the sense that it actually references where it got the sources from. Okay, so first of all, what it does is that it gives validity to the recipe in the sense that it is from a trusted source, and secondly, also it acknowledges that it didn't just plagiarize somebody's recipe and try to make out it was its own thing, right? So I like those 2 points, and I think as a matter of basic courtesy, if nothing else, you should also acknowledge where you get your sources from, okay? Obviously, things will slip up here and there. You'll say, oh, this is how I make something, but you forget where you learned them, you know, this particular technique or whatever. But I think as general practice, you know, you can just say, oh, look, I Googled this recipe, I found this website, and I got this idea from Jackie M or whatever else. That's very nice. Okay, so I used that recipe and I made a Bak Kwa jam. And okay, my takeaways from the Bak Kwa jam recipe. Okay, first of all, I went back and tweaked it. I added more sugar. That's one thing. Second of all, I added more salt. Because remember, it had no salt in the recipe at all. I just kind of like sprinkled some and I added a little bit more. Third of all, what I did was I actually changed the order, and you can do that on Cookidoo. You can go back and edit the recipe and select the option to change, you know, you click on the method section of it and then select the 3 dots or whatever and say you want to reorder the steps, right? You can do that. The reason I wanted to reorder the steps was I actually wanted to fry up the onion garlic mixture before the bak kwa and all that sort of stuff got added to it, because I think frying it gives it a nice flavor, and also it browns it up rather than show up as like little white specks. Okay, so to be able to fry it, I also added some oil. So oil, onion, garlic, blitzed and then fried up for, I don't know, 10 minutes or whatever else, and then add the bak kwa and all that sort of stuff. Third of all, I reduced the amount of vinegar because I found it a little bit too piquant. Paul would probably think it was fine. I generally am a little bit leery about something that tastes too sour. Okay, so I reduced the amount of vinegar by 2/3 actually, and also added more sugar, and then Paul ended up thinking it was too sweet. I like it sweet.
You're half Indonesian
Yeah. And then like I ended up with this big batch of Bak Kwa jam. I'm like, we don't even eat bread in this household. Truthfully, it's not like yeah. Anyway, we eat weird stuff, but not weird stuff. But we don't eat your basic cereal and whatever else sort of stuff that white people eat. This is coming from Paul. He's white, so he's allowed to say that. So anyway, I was thinking, now what the hell am I going to do with Bak Kwa jam? Okay, then I actually went back to AI and say, oh, can you give me ideas on what to use Bak Kwa jam with? Okay, and I said, I did mention this in particular. I found the jam a little bit heavy, dense, right, and strong, because you know what jams are like. You use a small amount, okay, and because we didn't have anything to spread it on, we just kind of like ate a couple of spoonfuls, and I thought, oh, this is really heavy stuff. And what it came up with was to use it as a spread, okay, not as a spread, as a dip, okay. So to use make a cream cheese dip with Bak Kwa, and I did that, and I actually quite like it. I want to take that to our church camp tonight and let people eat it as a dip with other stuff, okay? So I think that's a good way to use it up. We still got some more. I think it came up with a few other suggestions as well that we're going to experiment with. But these are the ideas that we were able to generate from AI, okay? And like I said, the interesting exercise is telling it to convert a conventional recipe to a Thermomix recipe. For those of you who own Thermomixes, or those of you who are wanting to convert your own recipes to Thermomix, okay, this is what you would want to do, okay? And like I said, I've got 400 recipes on my website. I've always meant to go back and actually convert them to the Thermomix, but it does need an extra pair of eyes to make sure you're doing it right, okay? So in the sense that you don't want to because like I said, AI is not 100% reliable. It will make up stuff if you're not careful. So, and I have mentioned to my Thermomix audience that I'm gonna, one of the things that are on my to-do list is for me to actually create my own Thermomix recipe conversion bot, okay? So even when I get around to it, I will tell you guys, and you guys can play around with it and see how it goes, okay? Because there are a lot of parameters you want to actually add to your Thermomix conversion stuff that may be missed by your average bot, okay? Because I want to add my own input on how I do things using the Thermomix, which is not always what official Thermomix stuff would say, okay? But anyway, so thank you so much everyone for joining me. Give me your comments, your thoughts, and whatever else. And don't forget to, if you want to catch all my broadcasts, you can do so at my, this here. Okay, you can do so at jackiem.com.au/timetable. And if you want to sign up to my email list, you can do that at, oh, speaking of which, one last thing. So you sign up to my mailing list at jackiem.com.au/email. I know it loads like for some reason that page loads really small, but wait for it, jackiem.com.au/email, and sign up, and you will not miss all the all my special communications, my special offers and stuff like that. Speaking of special offers, we just came back from Malaysia, so just give me 2 seconds while I step away and I'll come back, okay? Okay, here we go. So we just came back from Malaysia, and we got some swag courtesy of Tourism Perak. Is Visit Perak. Yeah, Perak is like literally our favorite destination in Malaysia at the moment, followed closely by Penang. And so Tourism Perak and Tourism Penang gave us some swag to come back with us. One of these is this little thing. What's this called again? This is the mouse thing. Tapir. Tapir.
The Malaysian.
Is it a tapir?
Yeah, Malaysian.
This is
something tapir.
Yeah, this is a Malaysian animal. And we've got 4 of these, and we're gonna give 3 of them away. If you order something from my website shop.jackiem.com.au, I'll throw that into your parcel, okay? And this is another thing, also from Tourism Perak. This is really quite cool. This is what they use in Malaysia back in the day to store water.
Malayan tapir.
Yeah, Malayan tapir that was. This is what they use to store water, and it cools the water, so it feels like you're drinking fridge water. Okay, you can't actually do this with this because it's not glazed. It's not fired and glazed, but you get the idea. You can use this for what do you call it? Oils, you know, your center oils and stuff like that. So you'll really make your room smell really beautiful. So you can get one of these. And this is from Tourism Penang. Okay, these are coasters, and I've got 3 of them to give away. Okay, so these are Penang coasters based on the beautiful tiles that you see all over Penang. Okay, so I've got 3 sets of these. If you buy something from shop.jackiem.com.au, I have to put a minimum amount. I don't want you to buy just 1 pack of curry paste and get this for free. Okay, but so you have to order a reasonable amount. I'll throw that in. Okay, so these are the things. I want to talk about my durian cookbook. Actually, let me just show you a copy of it quickly. Hang on. Okay, this is the new version of our durian cookbook. It looks a little bit different to the old one. Old one is not a good way to call it, but this is the original version. Okay, this is a limited edition version, by the way. So you can buy that at my shop.jackiem.com.au, and it comes with a special sleeve, and this is the same version that the Queen of Malaysia at the time has. Okay, and this is the new version. This is hardcover. Okay, and it comes with a little bookmark to explain a couple of things as well. And I only have, after I made a sale overnight, I only have about 9 copies of this left. So if you're interested to get it, this is the Australian stock. The rest of it is in Malaysia. You can order it, and depending on, like, if it's for Australians, I only have 10 copies left, okay? Rest of the world, I will ship them from Malaysia. It is heavy, okay? That's the only problem with this. It's heavier than the old version, which means the postage is going to be more. Okay, but anyway, thanks again for your time, guys. Don't forget to go back to jackiem.com.au/timetable, and it will have a list of all my broadcasts coming up in the next week. Okay, so I've got a whole bunch of stuff set out. One of it is a paid session with my Malaysian Street Food Academy students. Yes, I do have a group of students who learn to cook from me online. The rest of them are free for everyone to watch. Okay, I look forward to your company. If I missed anything, don't forget to just post your questions in the comments, and I will go back and I'll try and answer them afterwards. Okay, maybe with the help of AI. I was kidding. All right, thanks again, guys. I will see you later on. Ciao. Okay.